Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first ordinary edition of Monday Musings. I hope everybody had a wonderful celebration of Pentecost yesterday. It was a nice celebration here. We had a couple of things kind of came back to normal. We had printed worship aids for everybody who was here. Also, holy water is back in the stoops by the doors, and also we have individual bottles for you to take home. We didn't unfortunately have enough for the weekend because our shipment from Amazon didn't come in, but it's coming this week. So this weekend we'll have holy water for all who want it. And then also the kiss of peace returned at Mass. Of course, the socially distant bow nod of peace for people outside of your household. So things are slowly getting back to some semblance of normal. A number of you, of course, have asked about the June 15th deadline announced by Governor Newsom. We're, of course, waiting for the California Health Department and Solano County to make any rulings about indoor worship, whether we are still going to be limited to indoor worship or not, and trying to prepare for whatever that might be of staying at 100 or having no restrictions or some restrictions or heaven only knows. So we're waiting for that so we can, and also new guidelines from the Diocese of Sacramento for what that will look like. Of course, we'll let you know as soon as we know anything about that. My plan at this point is that we will continue to have at least the 9 o'clock Mass outside through the summer. And the reason for that is that I know there are a significant number of people that do not feel comfortable coming to Mass indoors. And so we want to serve those parishioners as well. So that will happen. And the reason not for the 11 o'clock is if you remember last summer, it got awfully hot for the 11 o'clock in the heat of the summer, especially like, in July and August. So avoid that. We're going to do it at the 9 o'clock so we don't run into that. And, please God, we won't have problems with smoke this year and fires with us, so please God. So that's what's going on there. And one other nice little bit I wanted to share with you is that Father Gregory and I had the pleasure of welcoming 8 seminarians from the Diocese of Sacramento here to St. Dominic's today. The vocation director of the diocese, Father Guillermo Hernandez, is taking this week and is taking the seminarians on a tour of the Diocese of Sacramento to show them the various ministries and parishes an extent of the diocese. We were laughing that it's much like our novitiate tour that Father Anthony does with the novitiate and taking our novice brothers around seeing the extent of the Western Dominican province. So I was very pleased that Father Guillermo invited me and St. Dominic's to participate in that tour. And we, in fact, were their first stop. They left Sacramento this morning, and St. Dominic's was their first stop. A little bit of history to remind some of you old timers and to clue in some of you newer parishioners that the first Mass in Sacramento was actually celebrated by a Dominican, Father Peter Augustine Anderson, on August 10th, 1850. He was a missionary at that time. That was before our first convent was founded in 1852 in Monterey, then the state capital of California. And then, of course, we moved 2 years later to the new state capital, a little town called Benicia, where we came in 1854 and where we've been ever since. But it was just a nice way to introduce the seminarians to the Catholic history, particularly of Sacramento and the Diocese of Sacramento. It was actually even before the Archbishop of San Francisco, this was all the territory of the Archdiocese of San Francisco, was in place. It was Archbishop Alemany, who was also a Dominican, but he was still in France at this point, so there wasn't even a bishop in residence here in Northern California yet. So Father Anderson really was a trailblazer. One of his hallmarks was that he ministered to um, people who suffered from the cholera epidemic that broke out in the fall of 1850, and he succumbed to cholera and died of cholera in November of that year. So shortly after celebrating that first mass in Sacramento at the ripe old age of, I think it was 38. Um, for you longtime parishioners, you know that I believe it was Father David O'Rourke, put that, I don't know what to call it, statue on the side of the church as you make your way in between the office and the church toward the parish hall. There's that statue of Father Anderson on the side of the church, but that's the kind of the reason that he was the first to celebrate Mass in Sacramento. And he was actually buried in Sacramento when he died. When Archbishop Alemany arrived, he had him transferred to the first St. Dominic's Church, which was down on 4th and I Street, or 4th and I believe. And then when we got the cemetery, decade or two later, his remains were transferred up to the cemetery, and that's where they remain to this day. So it was a nice little bit of shared history for us Dominicans and the diocesan seminarians of the Diocese of Sacramento. They're very nice, pleasant young men. So we gave them a good Dominican send-off to their tour of the Diocese of Sacramento. So again, hope everyone is doing well and having a marvelous week. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye for now.